They each get 5 minutes to do their intro. Then we'll start the questions. Each person gets 2 minutes to answer the question. And each person gets 1 minute for a rebuttal. And at the end, it's 3 minutes that they get to do their spiel again. During this time, they and you all have to be respectful of each other. There will be no faces, noises, or otherwise outbursts or things that are not supposed to be done in adult company. I don't want any 2-year-old behavior. I just told him, I said, I'll treat them like 2-year-olds and they get time out outside. So, I know we can all do this. Thank you for coming. This is a large group. And we'll start with the pledge. Do we want to wait the 5 minutes or should we just?
No, let's go.
Let's go. All right. Everyone please stand.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Mr. Gary, you're first. You can either use the podium or, I don't care.
It's kind of tight.
Yeah, it is.
It is. So,
Yeah.
normally
I
I
don't
do that
know.
here.
Do you guys want to move the tables forward so you can get to the podium or? I don't, yeah. Do that. You want them to do that.
My side is really tight, so I
Yeah.
won't spit on you or anything, so I'll
Sure?
I hope not. That
All
you can do that
right,
to
just a
me,
second.
so I won't do it to you.
He's starting. Got the timer?
I had to arrange a backup situation, so go ahead.
He's going to be the timer? Awesome. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gary Rhodes, candidate for sheriff. Thank you all for coming tonight. I really appreciate it, taking time out of your busy night. School's out, so hopefully don't get home and get the kids to bed. I'd like to thank the Republican Party for putting this together. A lot of work I know involved in putting these together. This is our third one, and I appreciate that, so thank you very much. Again, thank you very much. Just a little bit about me. I'm married, got a wonderful wife, supportive. We've been together for 36 years. Been married for 26. The reason I mention that, Mr. Ray Douglas is here, and I like what he said. You know, that's commitment. That is commitment. I'm very committed to everything I do. For you that are married, congratulations, Ray. I know that you're there with me as well as Mr. Ty. I got 3 adult children. All 3 graduated from Platte County School District. Live here in Bailey. Been here for 18 years. My kids are very successful, 21, 23, and I'm going to have a 25-year-old. And again, very successful. My oldest is a 7th grade science teacher in the Platte Canyon School District, 7th grade. What I bring to Park County, to the Sheriff's Office, is 28 years of experience. I've never been employed with the Park County Sheriff's Department. Never been employed at all with the Sheriff's Department. I've got approximately 20 years of law enforcement experience with the Colorado State Patrol. And I started my 8th year as a medical legal death investigator at Adams County. I graduated from the State Patrol Academy in 1992. The State Patrol Academy, for you that don't know, is a very professional, very elite police academy. At one time, it was CLEDA, the Colorado Law Enforcement Training Academy, where we trained pretty much every law enforcement agency in the state of Colorado, with the exception of, I think, Denver and Lakewood at that time. After I graduated, I was asked to come back and teach at the academy. So I taught at the academy from 1992 until 2010. I taught firearms, I taught self-defense, report writing, accident investigation, and report writing. I assisted with writing some of the policies. I helped write the firearms policy. I helped write the self-defense policy for the State Patrol. Ultimately, I was responsible for training several academies, not only CLEDA, but Ames Business College, Denver Business College, different academies that brought their students into our academy to become post-certified. I became an FTO, I think in 1994, very, very early in my career. I trained more troopers in the state of Colorado than any other trooper in the state of Colorado. I've got numerous certifications and achievements. So I got a book back there. Anyone is welcome to look at that. I'm a master firearms instructor, post-certified firearms instructor, a master self-defense instructor. Several certifications. I don't have a whole lot of time, so I won't go over all of them, but you are welcome to look at my training and certifications there in the back. I helped put together the active shooter training after the horrific event here at Black Canyon High School back in 2006. I'm active shooter trained as well. Again, I worked 10 years in Jeffco, in Jefferson County for the State Patrol, and I patrolled Jefferson County, Gilpin County. In 2001, I was promoted to corporal, a first-line supervisor. I supervised the troopers here in Park County. I was on call. I was responsible for the guys that worked for me, patrolling 285. In 2006, I was promoted again, and I finished high enough on that promotion list to stay here in Park County. I moved to Park County to make a difference. Very small community. I wanted to make a difference. I brought my family here, and this is where we lived for the last 18 years. Again, I was promoted to sergeant. As a sergeant, I was responsible for scheduling, for deploying my resources to effectively make it a safe community for all of us. Well, we got to do lunch. We got to hurry here. As a supervisor, again, I was responsible for not only Park County, but 5 counties altogether. That's the surrounding counties here of Park County. And, I was scheduling. I did their yearly work plans. I did their yearly evaluations. And, again, I don't know how many of you know, but the rumble strip, the center line being gouged out, rumble strip down 285 from Bailey to Fairplay, I worked with CDOT, and we got that put in. While I was a supervisor here, myself and my team actually reduced accidents by 85%. I left State Patrol in 2011 and became a medical legal death investigator. I've covered over 3,000 deaths in Adams County and Broomfield, from a simple hospice to a homicide. I'm very, very involved in the community. I started coaching here in 2002 until present. I care about you. I'm a citizen just like you. I want to make a change. I think it's time for a real change in Park County, and I think I have the training and experience to bring that to the county. Thank you very much. Primary is June 26th. I ask for your vote. Thank you.
There's some chairs right here, so I'll let you come sit down here.
Let him sit down first.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. My name is John Ty. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. And thank you for the Republican Party for sponsoring this. I've been in this community for 22 years. I've been married 37 years. I've worked for the Sheriff's Office for 19 years. I've been a commissioner for y'all. The commissioner is that administrative experience that I bring to the plate for y'all too. In my family, I have 3 children. My oldest, she works for the Department of Human Services and or Social Services, and she helps the spinal cord injured people with policy and procedure down in the capital and near the capital. My other son, he was in the Coast Guard, and he served our nation for 6 years, and now he's out. And really, the Coast Guard was a great job for him. He learned mechanical engineering in there, and now works for DIA, for a company there. My other son, he's the youngest, and he's in an internet marketing company now, and he loves it like crazy. I've been in the community also as a school resource officer. A lot of you know that about me. And I'll talk a little bit more about that because I think it's a great job, one of the best jobs next to being, I guess, the sheriff. I started my career out as a reserve for some small departments in the state of Washington. And then I moved to Los Angeles, where I actually went through the academy for Los Angeles Police Department. I got to serve with them, about 2.5, 3 years, when I decided that we'd move our family back up to the state of Washington. And I worked for the city of Bellevue. It's right across the water from Seattle. It's an affluent city, and I had a great time there. There I learned a lot of different things about law enforcement. Different than Los Angeles, yes, in a way, because Los Angeles had a lot of brutal crimes that you had to go to. I actually investigated, I think, my first time out, helping with the homicide and that, and officer-involved shooting my first week, robberies. Some nights, I think I did 6 robberies. You chase robbers, that sort of thing, 2 down there. So I had that experience in Los Angeles Police Department. Bellevue Police Department was a little bit different. I got to work with special detail units as a detective. There I learned I got a lot of my skills developed there, and I got to work different crimes. Homicides, sexual assaults. Also, I was able to develop actually suspects within Park County, or not Park County, Bellevue. Meaning I went out and looked and saw who was on the street and talked to them. As a gang officer, we did a lot of interdiction to at home and in the families and that, but I was able to find who was actually doing the crime. So sometimes we'd have a crime, I was able to identify who did that, and that sort of thing. So now, here in Park County, I got to be the school resource officer. One of the best jobs in the world. I got to protect your children at the schools. I've done both the school districts, RE1 and RE2. I've done Bailey, and that's where actually I started the program at Platte Canyon High School. And then I've also, just today, I'm a little bit tired, but we had our graduations for South Park School District, and that was a lot of fun, waiting at the buses and getting the kids off there. So I understand school safety, and what that brings me all the way around to this is that, do we have enough officers to really cover that? My thing here is this, is that I don't believe we do. And we need to find a way to fund that. Right now you have 4 officers out there, 2 on this side and 2 on the other side. And what we have to do is, I think we have good leadership. Who you pick here is a very good, I think you have a good candidates to pull from. But you have to go one step further, I believe, with Park County, with the Sheriff's Office, and that's with being able to retain and also to be able to keep those officers that you think are the best ones there. And we have to find a way to fund that. I do wholeheartedly believe in a 1% sales tax. It's a tourist tax that we can grab those citizens that are coming through this county and have them pay for our law enforcement and have them pay for some things that we need to have done here in this county. Yes, as citizens here, we're going to have to pay for some of that. And then also, I do believe that we need to opt out the cities because they already have their police departments in order, and they're already paying their fair share. So it'd be on the counties that aren't our county that isn't stopped.
Okay, so there's a seat up here. And let me see if there's more chairs.
There are no more chairs.
Okay. So, yeah, there's one seat up here. Okay. We're done. So now there's 2 chairs. So if we're going to sit, can you come sit now? Otherwise, everyone's going to stand. Thank you. Let them sit down.
Just stand there and pray for a while.
And if you sing, I'm so pretty, I'll be even more impressed. All right.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Steve Spodyak, candidate for sheriff here in Park County this year. Like the 2 candidates before me, I'd like to tell you all thank you for being here. This is an important election, not only here in Park County, but it's important for the sheriff. It's important for our commissioners. It's important for all the public offices here in Park County. It's also important on the state level. So thank you for being here. Thank you for taking an interest. Thank you very much to the Park County Republican Central Committee for their hard work in organizing this event and bringing us all together tonight. So again, my name is Steve Spodyak, candidate for sheriff. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my law enforcement experience. So this is my 14th year in law enforcement. I've had a number of different positions in law enforcement in that time. I've been a municipal police officer. I've been a deputy sheriff. I've been a school resource officer. I've been a SWAT operator. I've been a railroad police special agent and senior special agent. I've been a police canine handler. And I'm currently a detective corporal with the Park County Sheriff's Office and a SWAT team leader. So, a lot of people don't understand railroad police, so I'd like to talk about that just for a little bit, and I think there's an important bit with that. So what railroad police are is they're state certified peace officers, just like your municipal police officers, your deputy sheriffs, your state troopers. They're certified by the state in the state that they work in. But they have federal authority that allows them to take that state certification along across state lines to enforce the laws of other states. So that's a little bit different. The other thing that's different is that as a railroad police officer or special agent, you're employed by a corporation. You're not working for a government agency. So while you have law enforcement authority and law enforcement power, you're working for a corporation. Now, the reason that I think that that's important is because of something I learned in that career field, and that's fiscal responsibility. Because the bottom line to a corporation is money. They need to make a profit in order to survive, just like any business. So that's something that I bring to the table, is that experience in being responsible with the money that I've been able to spend. So, my priorities as your sheriff, the number one thing is retaining quality employees with the sheriff's office. As your sheriff, that is the first thing that I will look to address. I also believe in communication. And as your sheriff, I will work to increase communication that comes out of the sheriff's office to communicate better with the public, to also communicate better with other emergency services, and for the sheriff's office to communicate better within. I believe in accountability and holding people accountable for their actions. Now that goes for within the sheriff's office itself, but that's also really what law enforcement officers do, is they hold the public accountable for their actions. I believe that illegal narcotics, illegal marijuana, wildland fires, and mental illness are concerns for the people of Park County, and those are issues that as your sheriff I will work to address. Now, I haven't really told you much about myself other than outside of work. So, I'm a Colorado native. I've lived in Colorado my entire life. I've been part of the Bailey and Park County communities for about 30 years. I was born down at Swedish Medical Center, and like I said, I've lived here my entire life. My wife and I have decided to stay here, raise our family here. We're involved in the community over in the Bailey area. We have 2 boys that go to Deer Creek Elementary School. And so, like John Ty said, school safety is something that's important to me as well, not just as a father, but also as a law enforcement officer and a member of this county. Some of the things that I've been involved in with the county. I've been a Cub Scout leader. I've been a baseball coach. I've been a driver's ed instructor and coordinator. Like I said, with my law enforcement stuff, school resource officer. And I'm currently the president of Platte Canyon Little League. So, my kids are involved in the community, I'm involved in the community, and what I really want you to know is that the reason that I'm running for sheriff is because I care about Park County. I care about you all, I care about the people, I care about the county here. That's why I'm running for sheriff, because I see the potential for the Park County Sheriff's Office to be a top-notch, progressive law enforcement agency. And I believe that as your sheriff, I am the man to lead the department in that direction. So, we have the primaries coming up here in about a month. It's important at this point, for the sheriff's race, there's only the 5 Republican candidates that you see up here. Will all 5 be on the ballot? And I hope tonight that I'm able to earn your support. So I encourage you to vote on or before June 26th. And again, thank you all for being here, and thank you to the committee.
Just a second, Monty.
Good? My name is Monty Gore, and I'm running to be your sheriff as well. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for coming out this evening. I know it's sometimes difficult to get away from responsibilities, especially at the end of a long day. But the fact that we have a packed house tonight, I think, demonstrates the importance of this election. We need a sheriff who's credible. We need a sheriff who is accountable. We need a sheriff who will uphold the public trust. And that's what you'll get with me. I've been a citizen of this community for 30 years. My wife works here. My kids go to school here. I've been very active in our community. If you look at the rec center right across the street, that was a long project. We decided that we needed a place for our kids to go, to promote healthy lifestyles. That was about a 10-year project to get create a rec district and build that facility. And it's very successful today. I know Angela, I think, is on the board as well. I was also one of the members that created our shooting range out in off of County Road 15. I've also been president of our HOA for several years and led that association along with others through some issues with water rights and water augmentation and a little more about water issues than I would have ever liked to. I was president of the South Central Colorado Law Enforcement Officer Association. That association helps train law enforcement officers. I was elected president of the Central Mountain Training Foundation. And that foundation was actually made up of several counties: El Paso County, Pueblo County, Fremont County, Teller County, Chaffee County, Park County, and Custer County. Represent about 750,000 people, 33 different law enforcement agencies, and about 3,300 police officers. So I've been very, very active in my time in living here, in promoting goodwill, helping the community, and reaching outside the boundaries of the county to get training for law enforcement. I'm a graduate of 2 corrections academies. I'm a graduate of the Colorado Law Enforcement Training Academy, the one Gary was talking about. I actually graduated from that academy with 4.0 GPA. I'm a graduate of the U.S. Department of Justice National Institute of Corrections Leadership Academy. I'm a graduate of St. John's University. I got a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice and also graduated with 4.0 GPA. I'm a graduate of Basic SWAT School, and I'm also a graduate of Advanced SWAT Schools. Of all the candidates up here, I'm the only one that's a graduate of the FBI National Academy, Quantico, Virginia. I took graduate level courses and graduated once again with a 4.0 GPA from the FBI National Academy. I promoted through the ranks from an FTO, field training officer, to a sergeant, to a lieutenant, to a captain, to an undersheriff. I promoted in multiple agencies. Promoted in Summit County, I promoted in Park County. In my new job, had to take a competitive test with about 600 other competitors and ended up becoming a sergeant in about 7 months. So I continue to advance and have done the best I can and have excelled in every aspect of law enforcement. What I will bring to the Park County Sheriff's Office is proven experience, proven leadership, professional management, and a new direction. There's an old adage, and it says, leaders do the right thing, and managers do things right. In order to manage and lead a modern police agency today, you need both. You need a leader who can set the vision for the organization, and you need a manager who can manage the budget. You need a manager who can manage the jail. You need a manager who can manage patrol, investigations, support services, animal control, all of those aspects. And of all the candidates up here, I'm the only one that has been in those positions and have done it. And not only done it, but done it well. Thank you very much.
Good evening. I appreciate y'all coming also. Appreciate the committee putting this on tonight. My name is Tom McGraw, and I'm also running for Sheriff of Park County. Let me start out a little bit about my experience. I started out in law enforcement when I was 19 years old. My mom had to buy my gun for me because you got to be 21 to buy a pistol. I worked on an auxiliary police department with the city of Walton Beach for a year, and then I was just turned 20, and then I was asked by the chief to come in for an interview. I was the only one interviewed, and I was hired as a sworn police officer. What's interesting about that is that my chief, when he interviewed me, He said, Tom, he says, I'm scared to death to hire you. He says, you're 20 years old, and I'm scared to death to put you on the road. But he says, I had 6 veteran officers come in here and say that you are the one who won't go on the road. You're a good, solid police officer. So I went on the road at 20 years old. I started in patrol. I worked 9 years in patrol. And working in patrol, you answer every type of call imaginable, from homicides to robberies to burglaries to accidents, working traffic, domestic violence. And that was a whole new experience for me at 20 years old to go to domestic violence where a husband and wife that have been married for 25 years are fighting, and I barely have a girlfriend, and I'm supposed to figure out what to do with them too. So it was a learning experience for me, but I learned. And after about 4 years, the department decided to send me away to become a field training officer. We didn't have any field training officers at that time. So I went to school, and then after I got done with school, the chief says, okay, run it, organize it, make the program up. So I built the program. I ran it for 2 years. I was also sent away to become a traffic homicide investigator, the only one at that time. That was a pretty intense course. A lot of geometry in traffic homicides, which I wasn't very good at, but I managed to work my way through it. Then after 5 years, I was promoted to corporal. I was in charge of shifts at that time. Then after 9 years, or 8.5 years, I was promoted to investigator, went into a narcotics unit, a state and federal narcotics unit. For a period of time, almost a year, I was in charge of that unit. So we did a lot of major investigations, a lot of 1,000-kilo marijuana deals back when marijuana was illegal, a lot of 100-kilo cocaine deals, a lot of meth labs, a lot of indoor grows, a lot of marijuana indoor grows, a lot of crack cocaine deals, a lot of heroin deals, just about every imaginable type of drug you can imagine. I worked in the drug unit for a total of 16 years in 2 different stints. I then got hired by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. That is the premier law enforcement agency in the state of Florida. I went to work there and I went into the fraud unit. I worked 2 years in a fraud unit. And then after that time, I was transferred over and went into homicide for 5 years. And working homicide, as the lead agent, you're the one responsible for running that investigation. You start that investigation with a dead body laying there, and then you end it when you go to court and the person is convicted and sent away to prison. That's when you're done with it. I worked a lot of those. I worked a lot of officer-involved shootings as the lead agent. Then I went and got transferred back into narcotics. Worked narcotics again for another 7 years. And when I was working in homicide and narcotics for that 12-year period, I worked a lot with the small counties in Florida because when I was working for the state of Florida, we traveled all over the state. So I worked a lot with the small counties. I recognized the problems that these small counties have. And Park County is not anything special compared to other counties across the state and across the nation. We have the same problems. We have lack of pay, lack of leadership, lack of training, small town politics. It's just, we have beaches in Florida and we have mountains in Colorado. Very similar type problems. I listened to the people that were running the departments and how they dealt with those issues. And I learned very well how they dealt. Sometimes it worked, the ideas they had, and sometimes it didn't. But I understood how it went. Then I finished my career with 3 years in public corruption, working a lot of cases against public officials, county commissioners, judges, congressmen, very intense type operations. My wife, Barb, she's the head volleyball coach here in Fairplay. She's also retired law enforcement, 33 years of law enforcement. Our son is a graduate of Texas A&M. He just graduated last year. It's one of the greatest days of my life when I took him off my cell phone bill. So now he's in the Navy Reserve. He just got done with 2 weeks up in Norfolk at the Navy base. So now he's back at home in Houston, or Galveston rather. But we enjoy Park County. This is our home. We built our cabin up here, and we love the area. We're here to stay, and I appreciate any support y'all give me for Sheriff of Park County. Thank you.
So we're going to do 6 questions. Each person gets to answer the questions. They get 2 minutes. Each person gets 1 minute rebuttal. And we're just going to pick randomly because everything's been... So we're going to start with an audience question. And Gary gets to go first. And then we'll alternate through.
Sure, I don't think first.
I'm pretty sure it's right here. It says right here.
You go first.
You guys don't be messing me up. Okay. Please explain, does traffic violation and other fines fund the department? And if you guys need me to read this again after, I will. More than happy to.
That's a good question. And I've tried to get that answer as well. And as your county, the citations that are issued by the deputies, it's very hard to find out where that money goes. As a state trooper, that goes into a general fund, into the HUTF, the Highway Users Tax Fund. And that's how state patrol is funded. Trying to find out the stats for the Park County Sheriff's Office is very, very hard. If you look on the internet, there's no information. There's nothing. And I actually contacted a prior Park County deputy to ask him, does county deputies get any kickback from these tickets that you're writing? And he couldn't tell me. I've actually talked to two prior deputies and one current, and nobody can really give me the real answer. In Morrison, we know that, right? We all agree with that. Bailey to travel 285. Morrison, they do get, some of that money back. And right now, Park County Sheriff's deputies should be getting a kickback for those tickets. What I was told, actually, it was from a very well-known deputy here, that right now, the deputies don't have time to work on it. They're not writing traffic citations. They don't have time. We've already heard that there's 2 deputies on the Fairplay side, on this side of Kenosha, 2 deputies on the other side. That's got to change. We've got to figure out what we're going to do to retain these deputies. But to answer the question, yes, we should be getting that money back into our general fund at least, for the Park County Sheriff's Office. And if we're not, we need to determine where that money's going. We need to correct that. We need to correct it immediately. And as your sheriff will correct that. I will make sure that those funds get put back. I would like to see them go into the fund, not in the general fund, but into the fund that can help support our deputies. And it's not good for all of us. If we're getting stopped, we're going to get a ticket. But at least we know where our money's going. Again, but to honestly answer your question, nobody can honestly answer where that money's going to.
There are actually 2 ways to write a ticket in Park County. One way is to write it on the state statute. Those monies from the state statute go to the state. And then there's a few other parts of it. They can go to DARE, it can go to the Brain Fund, and there's a surcharge that's put on there. If we write the ticket for the model traffic code for us, for Park County, that money will go to us into the general fund. And then they also have that calculated out too. There's certain surcharges that go on that, go to different parts of the actual budget. Now, I just want to go a little bit further with what Gary said. Retention is what we have to have. Well, actually, recruiting, retention, and response for the citizens of this county is what we have to go to. And I think that's a money question. And that money question is where we need to actually look at how we can fund the sheriff's office so that we can retain our deputies. And is this one way? It could be possible, but I don't really think tickets should be punitive that way. They should stop the person's action. Thank you. Was that?
Yeah, you don't do the reply until everyone gets to answer the question.
What was that?
I'm sorry for the person that asked the question. They all need to start.
They all get you to start.
So you got
They all get one.
I knew that. I was just like.
Oh.
My fault.
So I get 2. We're going to start right over again. No,
You get one.
I'm just kidding.
All right.
So let's go back into that
Watch my
budget.
timer on.
Don't start yet. She was talking. No,
Okay, go.
okay, so let's get back to the budget aspect. How, you look at the sheriff's office. When I first started this campaign, people are asking, how are we going to keep those deputies? And you know what? I looked at our deputies, and there's some deputies there that cannot even insure their children because they don't have the money to do that within the county's program. They have to go to SSI and get them to actually insure their children. That is wrong. So we need to find a way to fund that. I think each one of us, and I think you have great candidates here, they need to look at their budgets and see where they can find that money to actually go ahead. Because I've heard a couple saying, that they're not gonna take all the sheriff's money. They're gonna put it towards the actual budget. I will say this, that's a drop in the bucket for our deputies. Our deputies making $35,000, they get a car that we get to take home because we're on call. What's that, another $40,000? Then their insurance is put on top of that. So there's a lot of money that's spent on just one deputy. And the training that we put in there is incredible. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Now, everybody gets to have 2 minutes.
Again, I'm Steve Spodiak, and to answer the question about traffic violations and fines going to fund the sheriff's office. I think that John kind of explained a little bit on how that works, where you can have the same traffic violation, let's take speeding for example, that could be written under the state CRS law or could be written under the Park County ordinance. So there's where the differentiation comes in there, because if you write it under the state charge, the money goes to the state. You write it under the county ordinance, the money goes to the county. Now, for most of our traffic citations, the money that comes in from those fines that are paid by all of us goes into the county general fund. It's not something that specifically goes to the sheriff's office. Now, there are some different areas within the sheriff's office, like I believe our animal control division, where they have worked with the county commissioners on the fines that they write to get some of those, not necessarily the fine itself, but the surcharges that are tacked onto those fines. So I don't know if everybody in here has received a traffic violation or not, but it's kind of broken down on if it's something that you can pay a penalty for, it's broken down by the fine, and then it has a surcharge for this, a surcharge for that, and then there's a total. As your sheriff, I think that money needs to be coming to the sheriff's office, or at least a portion of that money. And that's something that is not up to the sheriff entirely. That's something that the sheriff is going to need to work with those in county government, our county commissioners, to have an ordinance to allow for that, so that some of the money that is generated by the sheriff's office can be used by the sheriff's office and go to the sheriff's office. Now, I don't want to come off and make you folks think that I'm in favor of running something like Morrison, which was, mentioned before, a revenue generation. But for the money that is coming in, I think some of that should go to the sheriff's office. Thank you.
Well, first of all, to answer the question directly, traffic violations and other violations don't come anywhere close to funding the budget for the sheriff's office. Nowhere close. As far as traffic violations, deputies are encouraged to write on the county ordinance because that way the money does go into the general fund for the county. So given the option of writing a state violation or a county violation, county ordinance, supervisors are typically encouraging the officers to write traffic citations using the county ordinance. That's just common sense, and that's just good management. Surcharges are actually found on there as well, and a lot of these are actually used by the court system to fund some nonprofits and stuff like that within the county and help offset some of their costs. One of the things that I'd just like to point out to Gary is the Park County budget is actually online on the Park County webpage. So if anybody wants to know what the budget is or what the expenditures are, you can go to the Park County webpage and pull up the budget. That's one thing Park County is very good about, is being transparent and putting all the information on the budget. They make it available for citizens, and that's the way that it should be. As far as examining the budget right now, before going to any taxpayer and asking for a tax increase, we can get 3 to 4 deputies out of the existing budget just by managing that budget correctly. One of the other things we can do is, as a candidate, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. There's a statutory increase, a raise for the sheriff starting next year. I've already publicly stated I'll turn that back to the county to fund a deputy and equipment. I've already sat down with the county administrator and talked to him about that. Thank you very much.
Well, I think we all pretty well understand where the money goes. So, I'm not going to delve into that too much then. When I was working on patrol for 9 years, I wrote about 2,200 tickets during that time. And that's not a lot of tickets in 9 years. But what was important to note about that is I went to traffic court about 15 times for those tickets. So the point is that I wrote good tickets. And when I wrote a ticket to somebody, I was respectful, and they didn't argue with it. My sheriff told us, he says, write tickets, be respectful, and I don't worry about my person losing a vote. So, I don't want to turn this into Morrison speed trap down there, but I think that, the money, it does go into the general fund. And so the sheriff has to work with the county commissioners to try and get that money to go back into the sheriff's office fund to be used for equipment or something that will help out the sheriff's office. There are plenty of good tickets to write out here. And I'm talking about, we came down from Kenosha Pass a couple days ago, and it was pretty tight quarters out there, a lot of bumper to bumper, and people are passing us, and then they try and force themselves into it between me and the next car. Those are the type of tickets that I'm talking about writing. Good tickets of reckless drivers, people running 20 or 30 miles an hour over the speed limit in these residential neighborhoods where the speed limit is 25 miles an hour, doing 50 and 60 miles an hour. Those people deserve tickets. I know none of you guys are doing that, but we got to slow people down out here. We have some horrendous crashes out here on these roads, and we need to do everything we can to stop it. And at the same time, it will generate a little bit of money to help out the budget, a little bit. Thank you.
Now it's your turn. And then if we can just, I know it's polite to clap, but if we just close the clapping, then they can go faster.
Okay, I'd like to start with Monty. I'm very familiar with the budget. In fact, I've talked about the budget at every debate I've been to. He's right. We do have a lot of money in that budget that can be reallocated so we can get more deputies, more training. And I've talked about it at every debate. $140,000 in overtime last year alone. It's already budgeted for this year as well. To get back to the original question, yeah, common sense would tell you that we as deputies, I as your sheriff, yeah, we would be writing the county tickets to get that money back into the general fund. What I don't agree with is that money all going into the general fund. We need it for our deputies. We need to work with those commissioners. We need to work with them, which we're not doing right now. We're not actually communicating with them. We need to work with our commissioners and get the money for these deputies. By getting more money, we're going to retain them. We're going to be able to provide them with those benefits. And it's total benefits, not only money. We need a total benefit package. We need an insurance that they can live on, where they don't have to be on SSI. We got to have a total package, folks. We cannot just depend on money. We get a raise, they raise our insurance. We need to offer these deputies a competitive package.
I guess because I'm a past commissioner, I carry that budget with me everywhere I go. And right now, the county brings in about, looks like about $90,000 worth of fines, and there's certain charges in that. And Monty's completely right. It's on the budget, or on the web, and you can find it. $140,000 worth of overtime last year. Why was that? Were we down 3 to 4 officers, maybe 5? Yes, we were. I mean, you look at, as a commissioner, you look at that type of practice. What you're doing is, you're not hiring. You don't want to hire because you're driving everybody else to work that overtime. And does the overtime equal out to the amount of pay that's on the other side with the people that aren't there, the 5 to 6, and that? So there needs to be a way to retain and keep our deputies. We need to keep our deputies and quit paying so doggone much money in our training. And so I do have a plan for that aspect of it. I do look at our budget, and I don't know how you're going to squeeze 3 to 4 deputies out of that budget right now in regards to what Monty's saying. Thank you.
So I just like to make sure that people understand things. There was a little bit of talk about, yes, you need to write traffic citations under the county ordinance. Well, there's some things that can't be written under the county ordinance because they don't fall under model traffic code. If there's a state violation, like driving under the influence, for example, and another charge that goes along with that, all the charges will be a state charge. You can't mix them up. It doesn't work that way for the courts. So I just wanted to try and help you all understand that a little bit so that we're all on the same page. But yes, we need to work with county government to get more resources to the sheriff's office so that we can retain employees. I told you folks at the beginning, that is my #1 priority as your sheriff, to retain quality personnel. And yes, there's money that we can work around with the budget. I'm fiscally responsible. I've learned that in some of my previous positions, and I'm confident that there's money that we can rework to meet some of the needs that we have, even with the current budget existing as it will be in the first term.
The fines are actually mandatorily, statutorily mandated to go into the general fund. And that's how good record keeping is kept. The #1 reason people leave any organization, and I think you guys actually will come up with the answer. What is the #1 reason somebody leaves an organization and leaves a job? Anybody?
Unhappy.
What's that?
Unhappy with your employer.
You're exactly correct. At every management school I've ever went to, the reason officers leave, or the reason employees leave, because they're unhappy with management. We can come up with some creative ways to work on the budget, get these officers funded. I've already given you several, but it's the way that they're treated. And as a leader, I've always treated my people well. Thank you very much.
I agree, the salary is one of the biggest issues here, and, you know, I think the starting salary, I've got two different figures, either $34,500 or $36,000. You know, you can go work at Walmart full-time and make that much money, and when you strap on a gun and a badge and go out here and put yourself in dangerous situations, we have to pay them more money. The statement that Monty just made about being unhappy is the #1 reason people leave, I don't exactly agree with that. When you're getting such minimal pay, that becomes a huge factor. You know, being happy in your job is great, but most of those people that are happy in a job make a decent living. You know, we don't have deputies out here making a decent living. They are well underpaid, and we need to do something more about that. Getting better working conditions is important, better training and everything, but I think that if we get the pay up for these deputies, we're going to keep them longer, and they're going to become more experienced and know the areas better. It's going to be a much better department if we can do that. That's the #1 priority to try and do that. Thanks.
John, you're first.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a long one. I might hand this to you after I read it. The Park County Sheriff's Department is in a unique position to help mitigate some of its own expenses as a source of revenue. What revenue sources do you consider appropriate and could be enhanced generally? Now, we kind of answered this already, so if you guys don't care, I'll throw it out. All right. We run a very quick democracy here. Yeah, no dictatorship. Shh. All right, let's try this one. Okay, I know you guys have answered this before, but we have a different audience.
Okay.
The U.S. Constitution's Second Amendment could be a major area of scrutiny in the next several years. Please describe your position for this right.
We should not allow our right to be taken away from us at all. We should stay strong in the fact that if it goes to court or goes to the legislature or whatever, we're not going to allow anybody to take our guns from us. I've written a little bit about it myself on my posts in regards to it. We need to make sure that we continue to have our guns. It's one of those rights. It's a right that we need to maintain strong and fight for every bit of it. I think the reason I'm so staunch no to it is because you look at the court system or you look at the legislature and you give them this much room and they'll take it all the way out to as far as they can. And then they'll just nick or chip at that part of your right. And when that's chipped away, they chip more away with it, and more away with it. And we don't want that. We cannot have that. I do not want my rights to bear arms taken from me. And go further with it. The right to bear any type of weapon shouldn't be taken away from us. And I'm not an extreme, what I'm saying is like knives. You know what I'm saying is those sorts of weapons that, you know, we carry every day. You know, I watch the schools all the time. Park County's a farm county, or a ranching county, not as much a farm county as it used to be, but everybody's carrying knives. They carry knives. I mean, the kids also carry knives with them. So I don't want to see those rules or the laws so chipped away that we cannot carry our guns, and we should have a right to carry our guns. In fact, right down here at the store, when I was getting my signatures for my petition, a gentleman got out of the car, walked up to me. He was bearing his arm. And I said, thank you for that Second Amendment right to do that. Thank you.
I am a very firm believer in the Second Amendment of the Constitution. And I think that the Second Amendment is the Second Amendment for a reason. It's up there right at the top. And it's to protect the other amendments. It's to protect the First Amendment, which is our freedom of speech, freedom to assemble, freedom of the press, freedom of religion. It's there to protect our Fourth Amendment rights, to keep the government from illegally searching our property and seizing our property, seizing our person. It's to protect our Eighth Amendment right, protect us from cruel and unusual punishment. I mean, I could go, down the list on and on. But I believe that the Second Amendment is where it is in the Bill of Rights for a reason. It's because the founders of this great nation knew how important that was for us as citizens to be able to protect ourselves from the potential tyranny of government. Now that may sound a little strange coming from somebody who's works for a government agency and who is striving to be your sheriff and be in that position. But I think sheriffs are in a unique position because they are the upholders of your freedoms. That's why they're elected by you, the people. And one of the things that sheriffs here in the state of Colorado are responsible for is concealed carry permits. It goes right along with the Second Amendment. And I think that's one of the very most important things that sheriffs do. And I believe that every law-abiding citizen who hasn't done something that prohibits them from legally being able to possess a firearm should be able to get a concealed carry permit. They have that right, not only under Colorado state law, and that given to them by the sheriff, but also under the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. We have the right to keep and bear arms for a reason, and we need to protect that.
The United States Constitution and the Second Amendment guarantee, it's a promise to you as citizens, that you may keep and bear arms. That provision was not put in our Constitution to allow us to go duck hunting, or deer hunting, or go target shooting, or any of those. It wasn't put in there for us to defend our homes from intruders in the middle of the night. It was put in there so that you, as citizens, can stand up to your government if needed. That's why it's such an important amendment. The 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution gives states the authority to self-govern. Why is that important? Because we don't want federal intrusion. As your sheriff, I would stand firm with the Attorney General for the state of Colorado in defending the rights of Colorado citizens, of defending the laws that we establish here in Colorado. Those are important values to have, and you need to have a sheriff that will go his back and dig in his heels and say no. How many times in our society have we seen even federal government come into a small jurisdiction and take over? And many times to the disadvantage of the citizens. We can't allow that. You need a strong sheriff. You need a sheriff that will stand up to the feds when necessary and defend your right to keep and bear firearms. I'm that candidate. Thank you very much.
I'm also pro Second Amendment. I'm an NRA member. I remember when I was 5 years old watching my father teach my 8-year-old brother how to shoot a 16-gauge Mossberg shotgun. I watched him knock him on his butt with it. So I was not ready to shoot the shotgun at that time, but I did later on. You know, I've got a lot of guns. I believe in shooting well, knowing how to use your gun. You know, anybody out here that has a pistol that hasn't shot that pistol, I'm ashamed of you. You know, you need to know how to use your guns. There's no question about that, and use them well. You know, I enjoy shooting. One of the big reasons that I voted for Donald Trump was because I knew that he was going to put a conservative judge onto the U.S. Supreme Court, which he did. And I think that he's going to put another one on here before he's over with. So I think our gun rights, I'm hoping, knock on wood, that our gun rights are going to be pretty secure under Donald Trump with his nominations to this U.S. Supreme Court. I think that if this country ever came to that point where Washington, D.C. outlawed our guns, I think as a sheriff, I'm going to be calling on you people that own guns to help me maintain control in this county, to keep some of the nutcases out of here that's going to come up from Boulder and Denver and Colorado Springs and try and do crazy things up here. So you people are something I'm going to rely upon. But I'm a firm believer in having guns. I had some friends from Houston come up, and they were bleeding heart liberal Democrats. Love them to death, good friends. Never shot guns before. They came out, and I taught her how to shoot my AR-15. And she was like, wow, this is really fun. It doesn't kick. I'm like, duh. So I educated some bleeding heart Democrats a little bit, and maybe they'll go the other way a little bit about guns. But I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment, and I'm there to support it.
Well, I'm last, and again, this question's been asked quite a bit, and they all hit it right on the head. It's our Second Amendment, and I, as your sheriff, I'm a strong believer of that Second Amendment, and I will support that to the very end. Again, it's already been mentioned, it's not the 8th Amendment, not the 10th Amendment, it's our Second Amendment right after our freedom of speech, our First Amendment. That Second Amendment says we have the right to bear arms, and that will not be infringed on. Tom mentioned Boulder. You know, Boulder just made some new laws, and they're being sued. They're being sued. People don't know that. Because, again, that is violation of the right, violation of their constitutional right. That Second Amendment, I believe, was written in December 15th, 1791. It's been a long time. I, as your sheriff, am not going to change that. It's been mentioned before. You know, the government's going to try to take our guns. I'm not going to allow that. I will stand behind you, and again, I'll come to you as our citizens to fight that government. And they really touched on everything other than the fact that when you try to change that Constitution, I, as a sheriff, we're going to be sued. And once I take oath, I will stand by that oath. I will support that Second Amendment. Again, I'm a master firearms instructor. I just graduated, just actually one of the few in the state of Colorado, became a firearms specialist. And, again, I've been shooting since I was probably 8 years old as well. Education is another thing that's very important. Tom mentioned y'all should learn how to shoot, teach your children how to shoot, educate them. Make sure that they know that that gun's a deadly weapon. Make sure you teach them and you keep them safe. Don't hide your weapons. Okay, I was always taught to hide them. Don't hide your weapons. If you hide them, your children are going to wonder what they are. They're going to be very curious, and that's when we have problems. Be responsible, and I hope that you support that Second Amendment with me. Thank you.
So I don't know if you guys want to go back, do a rebuttal, or should we go on to the next question?
I think it's another question.
Yeah. have to pretend I'm a democracy.